All right, so our group is doing Tenino. It is by Mary Clearmont Blue. She was born in 1939 on a cattle ranch in Montana. Her memoir, All But the Waltz, won the PNW Booksellers Award along with a couple others. And now she teaches at the U of I since 1994. Or she's taught at the U of I since 1994. The tone of the story I thought was kind of curious and mythical. She wanted to know more about her aunt and like kind of the place of Tenino. Tenino is a place in Washington. Um, and she wanted to get a sense. Well, she like was traveling there because she wanted to get a sense of what it might reveal. The content and style and mechanics of the story I thought were pretty good. It like all flowed nicely. I don't know. I wasn't super interested in her story. I thought it like I don't know. I didn't really personalize with it. I don't I didn't have a lot of empathy for the story, but whatever. It was a good story, I guess. A line that kind of stuck out to me was she talked about back in the war in 1943 and 1944. That what is it? In 1943 and 1944, the war just is, but goes on. Everyone goes on with life, and I thought that was kind of like how COVID is now. So, or it was at least. It's a little bit different now. As far as the Zinser's rules, I thought that there was a lot of clutter. Personally, I thought she could have like cut a couple pages out, but maybe that was because I wasn't really feeling the story. An example of the clutter that I thought was she said the streets are not the same. There's a cafe, but not the Jiffy, espresso bar, antiques, and and a quilting store, all very contemporary. And I thought, like, I didn't really know why that needed to be in there. I thought she could have taken some of that out. But then again, that is just my opinion. But yes, that is my part as the analysis.
Okay, so as the language expert, I noticed that Mary Clearman Blue uses a simile on page 48 to dramatize the fact that she's driving down the same street from her aunt's postcard photograph. She quotes, "Suddenly I'm looking down the street of Tenino, the same main street in the postcard photograph that I've studied for so long, and I catch my breath because it's like driving through a veil into the past." In this sentence, her figurative language enhances the story so that the reader could get a better understanding of how she was feeling at that very moment. Instantly after reading this, I was imagining how it'd feel to visit an old town that held so much history involving a family member like my aunt. It must have been a surreal experience for her, and she uses the phrase, "I catch my breath," to express how shocking it was to her. To conclude the story, Blue uses irony in the quote, "I often can draw upon my memory and research to foretell her future." Her dramatic irony was expressing how vivid her imagination was in reading her aunt's diary, as well as getting to experience it for herself.
I was the entomologist, and the first word I found was on page 48, contemporary. This is an unfamiliar word to me. It means belonging to the same age or living or occurring in that same time of age. It's an adjective originally used in medieval Latin in the 17th century as contemporaneous, con meaning come together with, temper meaning time. This word changes the tone and kind of modernizes Tenino. And then the second word on page 50, she said she felt curious elation. I didn't know what the word elation means. It means great happiness or exhilaration, and it's a noun. First used in Old Latin as elationem or elatio, meaning to carry pride. This creates a comforting tone to Tenino. And then the last word I found was on page 50 when she said that Tenino transcends history. I noticed that this was a powerful statement. Transcends means to go beyond range or limit, and it's a verb. First used in the Old Latin word transcendere, trans meaning over, scendere meaning climb. The word transcend adds a familiar tone from this part of the city, from the past to the present.
Okay, so I was the tenant expert, and I found that the writer did well with including humanity in the story Tenino. Mary mentions, reading her diaries, I feel as though I'm living within a memory like my own, which after all occupancies, no space, but lives in the small realm of bone and brain and worries. Not about plotted past, which somehow exist behind it, but about the frayed edges of dimensional maps whose making a roads of rivers and events are overlaid. Like a series of transparencies. Upon the shifting present, I found this quote to be a perfect representation of using humanity in her stories. It flowed easily, allowing the reader to be engaged, and the quote alone was well written and had good detail to allow the reader to visualize it. The story Tenino had a good simplicity in it. It had good facts about her aunt and her diaries, even adding in a couple words her aunt had written long ago. The story is easy to read and easy to follow, like a linear line. But I do find that there was a couple words that could have been changed, like instead of it's, it could have been it is. Clarity was well used in this story. Mary did not add many cliches and had well-placed words that did not feel like too much. The words flowed freely with each paragraph and came together well for the ending. Vitality was an easy tenet to come by. The story was oozing with living details. An example I found was quite a long one, but Mary states in the first paragraph of her story, subdivision sprawling down from the Olympia has taken over many of the meadows. An auto repair shop and fertilizer dealership and brightly colored aluminum siding are open for business along the 2-lane highway that angles northeast from the Interstate 5. And yet there are moments when the June sunlight are ripening grass, the cattle sleeping, and the white faces of daisies. And the soft shape of the firs along the surrounding hills, quote, suggests to me that this road my aunt may have driven towards a near teaching job in 1942. This quote brings out a lot of detail that grows the more you read on. It allows you to feel what the writer is writing without it being too cliche.